Ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined by Eric Eager of SumerSports.com. Check out the podcast. The absolute 100% smartest football guy I know. What's up?
Well, that's high praise. Appreciate that, Bart. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to talk NFC North. I think Packers fans have been really fun to interact with this summer on Twitter, and so have Bears fans in their own way. So I'm excited to sort of break this down.
Well, that's where I'm going to start. This is a 4-team division, obviously, but a lot of what I've seen it's very frustrating. We are a month out from week 1, where the Packers do face the Bears. And when Aaron Rodgers left this division, Bears fans, I think, like a king that ruled them for centuries, died. And now they are coming out. They are unashamed to come out and be free again. And then down to the tyranny that they've fought for eons. And now we're still a month out. They're playing in week 1. We're still a month out. And we are fighting over Jordan Love practice throws to Justin Fields practice throws. We're fighting over how many people are going to the family nights, which then turns into, oh, well, there's more to do in Chicago, which turns into, then why do you guys come up here all the time? It is just like, Packers Bears have had this rivalry for a long time, but the last 30 years, it's just been like, whatever. Now Bears fans are coming from a position of what they feel like power, but that's all going to sway in week 1. Either, like, what I truly want is for it to be a 30-27 game where both quarterbacks score 3 touchdowns. I don't want, because I'm high on Justin Fields, so I don't want his narrative to be written. I don't want Love's narrative to be written. I just want like this to stop. This is maybe the worst time ever. There's no question here, but take with that information what you will.
Yeah, it feels like 2019 to me a little bit, in that, that was the year, and that was back when I was working at Pro Football Focus, but that was the year where Mitch Trubisky and the Bears went 12-4. They spent the entire offseason, if you remember correctly, the entire offseason worried about their kicker because their kicker missed a kick in a playoff game where Trubisky did basically nothing, and they lost to a backup quarterback in Nick Foles. And, the Packers were coming off of, I think in 2018, they were 6-9-1. Aaron Rodgers, got Mike McCarthy fired, for lack of a better phrase. And then, Matt LaFleur goes and coaches his first game. And even in 19, you didn't have MVP Rodgers, but you had Rodgers being good enough, to go into Chicago Soldier Field and win a tight game, win a game where the offense didn't look great. I worry for Bears fans because that was the last time they were like as haughty as they are right now. And so, obviously, to just fall flat on their face the next 3-4 years as a result. So I'm worried about Bears fans. Whenever they think that they have a good team, it feels like the exact opposite is about to happen. So I think Packers fans are interesting because you have like kind of the younger generation, which has really never dealt with anything but great quarterback play. And then you have kind of, maybe a little older generation that remembers very vividly the 25 years between or I think it was 25 years between division titles, 70s, 80s, and early 90s, that very much understand what it could be like without a great quarterback. So I find that the two narratives in the fan base really interesting, and I can't wait for them to play the week of the season. I think Detroit and Minnesota, when you look at that division, like Detroit's probably going to be the best team in the division, which is interesting. And I think Minnesota, everybody's resigned to the fact that they weren't all that good last year despite their record. And there really hasn't been a ton of controversy on either side of those two aisles. It's really this rivalry between the Bears and the Packers, which could be the two worst teams in the division or the two best teams in the division, that has me really interested.
Yeah, so you had put out these tweets for the AFC and NFC, which I just thought was, you probably just threw them together, or maybe you spent a lot of time on them, but either way, it was like perfect. For the NFC, you said good. Eagles, Niners, Cowboys, probably good. Seattle, Detroit, one will be good. Minnesota, Chicago, Green Bay. and you go through the rest of them. But I think that's the best way to sum up this division. I'm almost at the point where, and I know Detroit is the favorite, and a lot of people are going to take them just from the natural order of things. But I really think that with the unknowns for every team, Detroit, now they have expectation. Okay, when's the last time they had that? Minnesota, they should not have won 13 games last year, but Minnesota is perennially a 9-win football team. The Packers and the Bears seems like there's a floor and a ceiling where they're either going to win like 6 games or 10 games, and the quarterback play is going to decide those other 4 games. So it's almost like for this division as a whole, I would give pretty much everyone a 25% chance to win the division. Like, I think this is as equal as it gets. And I honestly don't know who would be the one to emerge. The Packer fan in me, sees Jordan Love have 2 nice throws and all of a sudden thinks like, okay, like here we go. But this is really the Bears schedule is garbage. They could rip off 10 wins. So I don't know who you would put as a favorite. And if it is the Lions, like, I don't think it should be that vast.
Yeah, well, the market has the Lions much more favored than my simulations do. I put the Lions more in like that. I can't remember what we had at Sumer with our sim, but it's like we have them somewhere around 35% to win the division. And then everybody else, to your point, is kind of in that 20% to 25% to your point. And when you look at market numbers, last year I was all over Detroit. I had the Restore the Roar hashtag, that win that they had against the Packers at home to go to 2-6 is really the changing point there. And then obviously they finished it off in Green Bay. They're a good football team. They finished this season last year as the best team in the NFC North, right? They beat the Vikings by multiple scores. They beat the Packers twice. They beat the Bears twice. So that they were the best team in the division. They just didn't end up in the playoffs because Minnesota won 11 one-score games. But make no mistake, like, this is a team that has not had these expectations. You have to go all the way back, Bart, to 1992, the last time Detroit was favored to win their division. And back then it was the NFC Central with Tampa Bay, Chicago, Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit. And 1993, people forget, that's the last time Detroit won the division and hosted a playoff game. And that game that they hosted was the game where Favre famously rolled left, threw all the way back across his body to Sterling Sharp in the end zone. That was Brett Favre's first career playoff start, was the last time the Lions hosted a playoff game. So it's been a long time since Detroit has had these expectations. So I agree with you that it's a wait and see on them. Market prices for the Packers were very generous. They were going off at 5-1, which means, for the gamblers out there, you only need a 16.7% chance of winning the division for that to be break even. Now it's about 4-1, which, to your point, is only a 20% break even to actually make money on that bet. I think you're probably closer to right. That should be like 3-1, or they each have a 25% chance to win it. I think that's the one team that people in the markets are undervaluing is Green Bay for a couple of reasons. Last year, the reason everybody liked Green Bay was because they thought their defense was going to be good. And you're always like, I don't know if you remember like the 2009, 2010 Packers, but probably very vividly, but like everybody expected that 2009 defense to be great. And then they were finally good in 2010. I think that, defense is always like a year late to the party as far as expectations. So last year when everybody's looking at Wyatt, Walker, obviously Campbell's, Douglas, and then you go with Gary before the injury, everybody loved that defense and it fell flat on its face. It's the same talent coming back this year. And I think expectations are a lot lower. I think they exceed those expectations on defense. And then on offense, you just need Jordan Love to color in between the lines. Aaron Rodgers is a great artist, but sometimes that art gets out of control. And you saw that a lot last year. You saw that in the divisional round against Niners a year ago. And I think if all Jordan Love does is color between the lines, I think this offense will be good enough to win that division with that defense.
Well, and here's the thing too, Eric Eager joining us. My whole thing about Jordan Love is that's what you just said is best case scenario in terms of everyone's mind. Like, there are people that think Jordan Love is going to absolutely suck, be tremendously bad. Finally, Packers, you're back on the side of bad quarterback play. LOL. And then there's some people that say, okay, well, if Jordan Love's all right. My whole thing is This league, fans, teams, players, what if he's good? I don't think the league has like planned for a scenario where Jordan Love throws 3 or 4 touchdowns week 1 and looks very good. I don't think anybody.
No.
I don't understand what it is. What if Jordan Love is good? That changes everything.
We've been analytics people like myself. Like, look, I think I wrote an article saying don't use a first round pick on Justin Herbert. Like, we've all, Brandon, this is an old PFF story, but Brandon Bean once called the PFF offices threatening to cancel us as a client because one of our articles said that Josh Allen was like the 29th best quarterback in the league. Like, where analytics get quarterbacks wrong, it's always the Jordan Love type, meaning it's always the guy that kind of in college struggled because of situations, right? Jordan Love in his sophomore year for Utah State was much better than he was as a junior. And to the point where junior year Jordan Love, if you just take the raw statistics, is not a first-round quarterback. However, there are misses here too. People will talk about Will Levis this way. People will talk about, the Ryan Leafs this way and stuff. But where analytics people get it wrong with quarterbacks is the robo-arm development guys like Josh Allen, like Herbert, although it didn't take Herbert that long to develop, and Jordan Love. If I'm a big Matt LaFleur fan. I was not a big Jordan Love fan when they drafted him. But you combine the two things and the fact that they stuck with the plan and he sat for 3 years and they're very clearly at least trying to buy in at least for 1 year with him. I'm going to defer to the information that gives me, which is that a very good head coach who's overseen offenses that have been very effective in Green Bay believes this player to be a starter. And like you said, I don't know if people are ready for the ceiling yet. I mean, look, like the ceiling is not just Love being young. It's the fact that whole receiving core is young too. Musgrave, Dobbs, and obviously Watson as well. Watson also being raw, not having a ton of reps in college at high level, in high level games. So I do agree. I think people are looking at this team like, oh, they could win 10 games. Like, I think if everything hits, they're back to being a 13-win team. It's just a question of, if it hits, to what degree does it end up being that way?
You're to pivot from Jordan Love to the other guy, Rodgers. So in the AFC, you say the Chiefs are the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs are by far and away everyone's favorite. Cincinnati and Buffalo, very good. Baltimore and the Chargers, very good. So now the AFC is interesting because let's say the Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, Baltimore, and the Chargers, and then someone's got to win the South, so Jacksonville. So then you're leaving one playoff spot for Cleveland, who could absolutely, I don't think people are prepared for if Deshaun Watson's back to form. The Jets with Aaron Rodgers, the Dolphins, where everyone likes them, ... if Tua stays healthy. I don't know. I like the Steelers a little bit. I don't think you count out the Patriots necessarily. I don't know about the other teams, but I look at how everybody in the Jets building is so starstruck by their quarterback. I thought that was the biggest takeaway from Hard Knocks the other day was, oh, Jets fans are really tickled to have Rodgers. Oh, you know who can't stop pinching himself is the coach. Robert Saleh can't get over it either. With the Jets, and I come from a bias where I am rooting against them. I don't want them to be good. I just don't know where they fit into an AFC that has teams with good defenses and young franchise quarterbacks. Those are the teams. And then there's this Rodgers coming in trying to do what Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Matt Stafford did, which it seems like the only two ways to win a Super Bowl right now are draft a guy, win with him, or wait until a team is tired of their star quarterback and then pick him off in one of his final years. Yeah,
the Jets, per my numbers, their average game is about 8/10 of a point harder than the average team on neutral field, which means every game you look at their point spread and it's about a point harder. And that adds up over the course of a season. The only teams with harder schedules are New England, Miami, and the New York Giants. That's the thing, right? And that is going to totally that's the hardest schedule, and that's the hardest 3 schedules in the AFC there, right there. And to your point, think about it this way. That's why I wrote it down on Twitter, because I'm thinking to myself, NFC, anybody can make the playoffs. I think Tampa Bay and LA, I think the only team that couldn't make the playoffs in the NFC is probably Arizona. The only team, in my opinion, that's not good in the AFC, or I can't see them being good, is the Vegas Raiders. I think every team in the AFC could be good, to the point where, Bart, if you look at the 4 great Hall of Fame caliber coaches, right? Vrabel, Belichick, Tomlin, and Sean Payton. Do we really think that we're going to go 0 for 4 on those guys making the playoffs? But those aren't the best. Those aren't the top half of the teams in the AFC.
That's why I kind of like Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you propel one of them into the playoffs, and it comes at the expense of all these sexy teams we talked about. The Ravens with Todd Monken, the Browns, as you said, with a great roster, just signed Shelby Harris. Also have Zadarius Smith, former Packer, and Myles Garrett on the defensive line to go with the great offense. That team, right? You said the Steelers are in the bottom half of the AFC, but could make their way there. And then in the AFC East, it's like, not only are all 4 of those teams thinking they're playoff contenders, all but probably Buffalo, their front offices are not safe. That's the other thing. When you look at Miami's 3 straight winning seasons, but no playoff wins. Fired the coach, but that wasn't evidently, like, I think McDaniel's great, but that was still the same outcome last year. The Jets, when Pete Carroll lost 6 straight games to end the season, he got fired after 1 year. Saleh gets another year because, they drafted well last year. And then New England, since Brady's been gone, one playoff game where they got beat by 30, and then a bunch of non-playoff seasons. So I think it's not only going to be crazy from like a who makes it standpoint, there's also desperation in it too. Like, this could go, we saw Favre go to the Jets and Mangini get hacked after they didn't make the playoffs at 9-7. Like, Rodgers has Joe Douglas's job, Robert Saleh's job, all on his shoulders in that season that they're going to have with the Jets this year, in a season where this, as I said, the deck stacked against them pretty tough.
That's why I think this season, and AFC, NFC, things swing like this. But in one conference, you're going to get a race where there's going to be 12 teams that are like that final week. You're going to be like, how are the Bills going to miss the playoffs? Or like, how are the Chargers? There's going to be a team like that. Yeah, who knows? There's going to be teams that shock you. And then the NFC, really, it could be like, is this maybe finally the year Dallas does something? Is one of these teams in the NFC South, like one of the teams in the NFC South, I don't think that division's any good, but one of those teams will host a playoff game. What if Bryce Young figures it out? What if this Falcons rushing attack figures it out? So I think there's a lot of potential in Seattle. So I wonder, I just wonder outside of the Eagles and the Niners, who might emerge out of there.
Well, yeah, I think in the NFC, it's so funny because there are 2 divisions that are more or less 2-team races. The NFC West, unless the Rams shock the world and stay healthy all the year, like they'll be competitive for a month and they'll fade away. The Cardinals stink. So it's really just Niners, Seahawks, and the betting markets are daring you to bet against the Niners with Brock Purdy at quarterback, hanging them at minus like 170, 180 or so to win that division. That's crazy. And then you look at the NFC East. Like I made a point to this. The Giants last year, 9-7-1, their schedule was a point easier per game going into the year than the average game on a neutral field. They win 9. Washington had a similarly easy schedule. Now they both have hard schedules. That's a 2-team race. That's Philly and that's Dallas, and that's a division that hasn't been won by a team consecutive years since Andy Reid was the coach of the Eagles. So like the NFC, we're gonna see 3 teams that are in the playoffs that aren't even good teams, and in the AFC, we're gonna see 3 pretty damn good teams that aren't gonna make the playoffs. And that to me is just so striking and so crazy that Rodgers, to bring this back to the local angle, Rodgers would opt into that situation. Yeah. That to me is like the biggest crazy part about this entire thing is and granted, Brady went to a division in 2020 where the Saints were basically where the Bills are now. A lot of wins, no Super Bowls to show for it over that stretch. And the Saints even won that division, kicked Tampa's ass in the regular season that year, and then they sneak in and obviously win from the 5 seed. To me, that's like the ceiling for Rodgers, is to win a Super Bowl from like the 5 or 6 seed in the AFC, which to me, it's like, good luck. You're not getting Vic, Matt Ryan and Caleb Haney in the playoffs this time. You're getting, Mahomes, Herbert, Allen. Like you're not going to play Jay Cutler in the conference title game this time.
The NFL season is going to be fun. I can't wait for it. You're doing your work with SumerSports. So what's going to be like a week for you? Because Sunday's watching all the games, but then because the fact that you can just like, oh, here I am going 8 deep on the Packers defense and offense. Not everyone's going to be able to do that, but you're kind of like doing that with every team.
Yeah, I think for me, this goes back to when I was at PFF, but I love watching the games. But a good something to sort of, I don't rewatch games during the season. If it's on when I'm on, I watch it. If it's not, I have like these algorithms that build out KPI reports so I can kind of go in. And I've watched enough old football and stuff where I can be like, oh, I kind of knew what happened in that game. You can go through and like read the data, but I essentially have like the data that kind of tells me how the game went and if I should look a little bit further. But that's kind of the average week is I'll sit there and watch kind of and have my printouts and stuff. And then, writing and having to opine on the league certainly is big. Like if I'm on a radio hit in Charlotte, I need to know something about the Panthers. And it's just it's really helpful there. But yeah, it's a good thing. SumerSports.com, we're going to have a lot of new, like we have article content, podcast content up there now. We're going to have some stats for people as well. Cause we know the Football Outsiders is kind of gone out of business. And we know that there's PFF is a little lighter, than they have been before. So we're going to try to fill those gaps there and provide some key analysis. We're going to have some really cool fantasy football tools, a chat bot that you can go in and be like, hey, who do I start this week? And it'll spit that out for you. So I'm really thrilled for this season and I'm excited for what's next.
So you almost like, I'm a big Marvel guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing a complete timeline watch, like everything they've ever put out. And then there's some shows that are so bad. There was a show called Inhumans, which was terrible. And so I was like, I don't need to watch this. So I just like read about it and got a gist because I've seen all the other Marvel. So that's like what you do with football.
Yeah, but I will say if the game is on, I'll watch it. It's more like a Sunday afternoon.
But if you miss like Rams Seahawks on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, if it's Rams Seahawks on a Sunday afternoon, I'll look at the game. I have these algorithms that'll build from the play-by-play data, kind of how things went, and I'll look back at it and see. But yeah, it's like there are some games where it's just like I'll look at that and that's enough for me. And then I watch almost every Chiefs game. I watch. That's about the only team I religiously watch every game. Go out of my way to, when I lived in Wisconsin, I watched a lot of Packers games. So I know, kind of how that era went. But yeah, for a lot of them, it's I get the Cliff Notes from my data, which, I built the systems because I watched a lot of football in the past. So I know what to look for, but yeah, it's hard. The people that watch every game religiously and watch film, they have my respect because that's a lot of time and effort for sure.
Damn. Cool stuff. Eric Eager, appreciate your time. Good to catch up with you. You be well. We'll talk soon.
Bart, this was fun. We'll chat soon.